Lesson 1. Ignore the need for everyone's approval. One of the greatest obstacles to happiness is something that most people carry every single day without even realizing it. It is the constant desire to be approved, accepted, praised, and validated by others. Many people wake up each morning already thinking about what others will think of them. They worry about how they look, how they speak, how they act, and whether the people around them are pleased with their choices. Without noticing it, they slowly hand over control of their emotional well-being to the opinions of strangers, co-workers, relatives, friends, and even people who barely know them. Bruce Lee believed that true freedom begins the moment you stop allowing other people to decide your worth. Think about how much energy is wasted every day trying to gain approval from people whose opinions add no real value to your life. Some people spend years chasing recognition from family members who never seem satisfied. Others constantly seek validation from friends who only support them when it is convenient. Many sacrifice their dreams because they are afraid of criticism, judgment, or rejection. In the process, they slowly lose themselves. The problem with seeking approval is that it never ends. No matter how hard you try, there will always be someone who disagrees with you. There will always be someone who misunderstands your intentions, questions your decisions, or criticizes your path. If your happiness depends on universal approval, then happiness will always remain out of reach because universal approval simply does not exist. Bruce Lee understood a powerful truth that many people spend their entire lives avoiding. He knew that criticism is not always a sign that you are doing something wrong. Sometimes criticism is simply proof that you are living differently from others. When people see someone pursuing a path they are too afraid to follow, they often respond with judgment instead of understanding. Their opinions say more about their fears than about your choices. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with rocks everywhere you go. Every negative opinion, every criticism, every attempt to please someone who cannot be pleased adds another rock to that backpack. Eventually, the weight becomes exhausting. You feel drained, anxious, and emotionally trapped. But what if you simply decided to put the backpack down? What if you stopped carrying the expectations that were never yours to carry in the first place? This is where happiness begins to grow. Not when everyone approves of you, but when their approval is no longer required for your peace of mind. The moment you realize that your value does not increase when someone praises you and does not decrease when someone criticizes you, a tremendous sense of freedom enters your life. You stop performing for an audience and start living according to your own principles. You stop shaping your identity around what others want and start discovering who you truly are. Bruce Lee often encouraged people to express themselves honestly and authentically. He believed that each individual has a unique nature that should not be hidden behind fear and conformity. When you constantly seek approval, you suppress that nature. You become a version of yourself designed to satisfy everyone else. But when you release that need, your real personality begins to emerge. Your decisions become clearer, your confidence becomes stronger, your relationships become more genuine because you are no longer pretending to be someone you are not. The truth is that the people who achieve the greatest inner peace are not the people who receive the most approval. They are the people who have learned to live without needing it. They understand that happiness comes from self-respect, not public approval. They know that peace comes from being true to themselves, not from constantly adjusting themselves to fit other people's expectations. So if you want your happiness to grow, begin by ignoring the need to be liked by everyone. Ignore the pressure to constantly prove yourself. Ignore the endless desire for validation. Let people think what they want. Let them misunderstand you if they must. Let them create their own opinions. Their thoughts belong to them. Your life belongs to you. Because the day you stop seeking permission to be yourself is the day you begin experiencing a deeper level of happiness that no criticism can steal and no approval can improve. That is the kind of happiness Bruce Lee wanted people to discover, a happiness built not on the opinions of others, but on the unshakable foundation of knowing exactly who you are. Lesson 2. Ignore what you cannot control. One of the most powerful shifts a person can make in life is learning the difference between what can be controlled and what cannot. Most unhappiness is not created by reality itself, it is created by our resistance to reality. People suffer because they desperately try to control outcomes, situations, and people that were never under their control in the first place. They want everyone to behave the way they expect. They want life to unfold according to their plans. They want certainty in an uncertain world. And when reality refuses to cooperate, frustration, anxiety, and disappointment begin to take over. Bruce Lee understood that life is constantly changing. Nothing remains fixed forever. Circumstances change, relationships change, opportunities appear and disappear, people enter your life and people leave. Trying to control every aspect of life is like trying to hold water tightly in your fist. The harder you squeeze, the faster it slips away. This is why so many people remain trapped in stress. They are fighting battles that cannot be won because they are fighting against the natural flow of life itself. Think about how much energy is wasted worrying about things that may never happen. Some people spend hours imagining worst-case scenarios. They replay conversations in their minds. They worry about the future, obsess over possibilities, and create problems long before any real problem exists. Their minds become crowded with fears about events they cannot predict and outcomes they cannot guarantee. As a result, they sacrifice today's peace for tomorrow's uncertainty. Bruce Lee's philosophy teaches a different approach. Instead of exhausting yourself trying to control everything, focus your energy on controlling yourself. You may not control the weather, but you can control your attitude. You may not control other people's actions, but you can control your response. You may not control every challenge that appears in your life, but you can control the strength, discipline, and wisdom with which you face it. This simple shift changes everything. The moment you stop trying to manage what is outside your reach, you free enormous amounts of mental and emotional energy. Instead of wasting your strength on things beyond your influence, you invest it where it actually matters. You become calmer because you are no longer carrying responsibilities that were never yours. You become stronger because your attention is focused on growth rather than worry. Many people cannot enjoy the present moment because they are mentally living somewhere else. Their body is here, but their mind is trapped in tomorrow's fears or yesterday's regrets. They miss the beauty of the current moment because they are busy fighting imaginary battles inside their heads. Bruce Lee believed that true power comes from being fully present. When your attention is rooted in the present, your mind becomes clearer, your actions become more effective, and your happiness begins to grow naturally. There is also a hidden danger in trying to control everything. It creates the illusion that you are responsible for outcomes that were never entirely yours to determine. When things go wrong, you blame yourself excessively. When plans fail, you feel defeated. When people disappoint you, you feel personally attacked. But life was never designed to give you complete control. Life only gives you influence over your own actions, decisions, and mindset. The rest is part of a much larger process that no individual can fully command. The happiest people are not those who have perfect control over their lives. They are those who have learned to let go of what they cannot control and fully commit to what they can. They accept uncertainty without becoming paralyzed by it. They accept change without constantly resisting it. They understand that peace is not found in controlling every outcome, but in trusting themselves to handle whatever outcome arrives. Imagine how much lighter your life would feel if you stopped carrying every uncertainty on your shoulders. Imagine waking up without the constant need to predict, manage, and force every situation into place. Imagine trusting yourself enough to face life one step at a time instead of trying to solve every future problem today. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. This is strength. This is freedom. So if you want your happiness to grow, begin ignoring the things you cannot control. Ignore the endless urge to force outcomes. Ignore the habit of worrying about every possibility. Ignore the belief that everything must happen exactly as planned before you can feel at peace. Focus on your character, your effort, your discipline, and your response. Let life flow where it must flow, while you continue becoming stronger within. Because the moment you stop fighting what you cannot control is the moment you finally gain control over what matters most, your own mind. And when your mind is at peace, happiness no longer feels distant. It becomes a natural part of who you are. Lesson 3: ignore comparisons and focus on your own path. One of the fastest ways to destroy your happiness is to constantly compare your life to the lives of other people. It is a habit that seems harmless at first, but over time it quietly steals your confidence, your gratitude, and your peace of mind. The moment you begin measuring your worth against someone else's success, appearance, wealth, achievements, or lifestyle, you enter a game that can never truly be won. No matter how much progress you make, there will always be someone who appears to have more, do more, or achieve more. Bruce Lee understood that every individual walks a unique path. He never believed that greatness comes from becoming a copy of someone else. In fact, one of his most powerful ideas was that true mastery begins when you stop imitating and start discovering your own nature. Yet many people spend years looking at others instead of looking within themselves. They become so focused on another person's journey that they completely lose sight of their own. Think about how often comparison creates unnecessary suffering. Someone buys a new house, and suddenly your home feels inadequate. Someone receives recognition, and suddenly your accomplishments seem smaller. Someone appears happier, more attractive, or more successful, and suddenly you begin questioning your own value. Nothing about your life actually changed in that moment. The only thing that changed was your perspective. A few seconds of comparison turned blessings into disappointments. This is why comparison is such a dangerous habit. It blinds you to your own progress. Instead of appreciating how far you have come, you become obsessed with how far someone else appears to be ahead. You stop celebrating your growth because you are too busy measuring it against another person's timeline. But life was never meant to be lived as a competition with everyone around you. Bruce Lee often emphasized self-expression rather than imitation. He believed that every person possesses unique strengths, talents, experiences, and lessons that cannot be duplicated. When you compare yourself to others, you ignore the fact that their path and your path are completely different. You do not know their struggles, you do not know their sacrifices, you do not know the hidden battles behind their visible success. All you see is a small piece of their story, and then you unfairly compare it to every detail of your own. The truth is that comparison creates two different traps. The first trap is feeling inferior. You look at others and believe you are not enough. The second trap is feeling superior. You compare yourself to those who have less and become arrogant. Both traps pull you away from genuine happiness because both depend on measuring your value against someone else. Real confidence does not come from being better than others. It comes from becoming better than the person you were yesterday. Imagine a tree growing in a forest. It does not waste energy comparing its height to the trees around it. It simply continues growing according to its own nature. A tree that spends its life wishing it were another tree would never reach its full potential. Human beings often make this mistake. Instead of nurturing their own growth, they become distracted by the growth of everyone else. When you stop comparing, something powerful begins to happen. You start noticing your own progress again. You become grateful for your journey. You begin setting goals based on your values instead of society's expectations. You stop chasing someone else's definition of success and start creating your own. This brings a sense of freedom that comparison can never provide. Bruce Lee's philosophy teaches us that the goal is not to outshine others. The goal is to fully express the best version of yourself. Your mission is not to become another person. Your mission is to become who you were capable of being all along. The moment you understand this, life becomes far less stressful. You no longer need to win every race because you realize you are running a completely different one. So if you want your happiness to grow, begin ignoring comparisons. Ignore the urge to measure your life against the lives of others. Ignore the pressure to keep up with people who are walking a different path. Ignore the illusion that someone else's success somehow reduces your own potential. Their journey belongs to them. Your journey belongs to you. Keep your eyes on your own growth. Focus on your own improvement. Celebrate your own victories, no matter how small they may seem, because happiness grows when your attention returns to where it belongs. Not on the lives of others, but on the life you are building for yourself. And when you fully commit to your own path, you discover a level of peace and fulfillment that comparison can never take away. Lesson 4. Ignore the opinions of small-minded people. One of the most liberating lessons Bruce Lee taught through both his words and his life is that not every opinion deserves your attention. This may sound simple, but countless people spend years allowing negative voices to shape their emotions, limit their potential, and steal their happiness. They give enormous power to people who have contributed nothing to their growth and understand nothing about their dreams. Small-minded people often have a habit of criticizing what they do not understand. They laugh at ambition because they have abandoned their own. They question your goals because they are uncomfortable with change. They doubt your abilities because they have doubts about themselves. Instead of expanding their vision, they try to shrink yours. Instead of improving their own lives, they focus on judging the lives of others. Bruce Lee experienced this throughout his journey. He was told certain things could not be done. He was told certain limits could not be broken. He was criticized for thinking differently and refusing to fit into traditional boxes. Yet he continued moving forward because he understood a powerful truth. If you listen to every voice around you, you will eventually lose your own. Many people never reach their full potential because they allow negative opinions to become permanent obstacles. A careless comment from someone years ago still lives in their mind. A teacher's criticism, a friend's doubt, a family member's discouragement, or a stranger's judgment continues influencing their decisions long after the moment has passed. What began as someone else's opinion slowly became their personal belief. This is how dreams die, not because they were impossible, but because someone accepted another person's limitations as their own reality. The truth is that people will often judge you based on their level of awareness, not yours. Someone who fears risk will criticize courage. Someone who avoids growth will criticize ambition. Someone who has given up on their dreams may secretly resent those who continue pursuing theirs. Their opinion is often a reflection of their mindset, not an accurate reflection of your potential. Bruce Lee believed that self-knowledge is one of the highest forms of power. When you know who you are, where you are going, and what you stand for, outside opinions lose much of their influence. They may still be heard, but they no longer control your direction. You stop treating every criticism as a verdict and start seeing it for what it often is, another person's perspective, shaped by their own experiences, fears, and limitations. Imagine driving toward an important destination while random people standing on the roadside shout conflicting directions. One says go left, another says go right, another tells you to turn around completely. If you stopped for every voice, you would never reach your destination. Life works the same way. Every person has an opinion. If you attempt to satisfy them all, you will spend your entire life moving in circles. This does not mean you should ignore all advice. Wise advice is valuable. Constructive criticism can help you grow. The key is learning the difference between guidance and noise. Guidance helps you improve. Noise only distracts you. Guidance comes from wisdom and experience. Noise often comes from insecurity, jealousy, fear, or ignorance. The happiest people are not those who receive the least criticism. They are those who have learned which criticism deserves attention and which criticism deserves to be ignored. They understand that every minute spent worrying about meaningless opinions is a minute stolen from their own growth and peace. Bruce Lee's philosophy reminds us that confidence is not the absence of criticism. Confidence is the ability to continue moving forward despite it. It is the ability to remain true to yourself when others misunderstand you. It is the strength to follow your path even when others cannot see where it leads. So if you want your happiness to grow, Stop giving front row seats in your mind to people who have not earned them. Ignore the voices that constantly discourage, belittle, and distract. Ignore those who mock your dreams while doing nothing with their own lives. Ignore opinions that pull you away from your purpose and weaken your spirit. Your life is too valuable to be directed by people who do not understand your vision. Their doubts are not your destiny. Their fears are not your future. Their limitations are not your limits. The moment you stop allowing small-minded people to occupy space in your mind, you create room for something far more important: clarity, confidence, growth, and happiness. And that happiness grows stronger every time you choose your own path over someone else's judgment. Lesson 5. Ignore past mistakes that no longer serve you. One of the heaviest burdens a person can carry is not failure itself, but the refusal to let failure stay in the past. Many people spend years haunted by mistakes they can no longer change. They replay old conversations, old decisions, old failures, and old regrets over and over again in their minds. They constantly ask themselves what they should have said, what they should have done, and how their life might be different if they had chosen another path. Without realizing it, they become prisoners of moments that no longer exist. Bruce Lee understood that growth is impossible when your attention is trapped in the past. Life is always moving forward, but many people keep looking backward. They drag yesterday's mistakes into today's opportunities and then wonder why happiness feels so far away. They continue punishing themselves for lessons that were meant to teach them, not define them. The truth is that every human being makes mistakes. Every successful person has failed. Every wise person has made poor decisions at some point in life. Every strong person has experienced moments of weakness. The difference is that successful people learn from their mistakes while unhappy people live inside them. One uses the past as a teacher, the other uses it as a prison. Think about how much emotional energy is wasted carrying regret. A mistake made 5 years ago cannot be changed by worrying about it today. A missed opportunity cannot be recovered by endlessly replaying it in your mind. Yet many people continue feeding their regrets every day, as if suffering longer will somehow rewrite history. It never does. The past remains unchanged while the present slowly slips away. Bruce Lee believed that life is a process of constant learning and adaptation. He often spoke about the importance of being flexible, growing through experience, and refusing to become trapped by old versions of yourself. Yet many people continue identifying themselves with their worst moments. They say things like, "I failed once, so I am a failure. I made a mistake, so I am broken. I lost an opportunity, so my future is ruined." These beliefs become chains that limit their potential long after the original mistake has passed. But consider this for a moment. If a child falls while learning to walk, we do not call the child a failure. We understand that falling is part of learning. We understand that mistakes are part of growth. Somehow, as adults, we forget this wisdom. We expect perfection from ourselves and then become discouraged whenever reality reminds us that we are human. The greatest danger of living in regret is that it blinds you to the opportunities standing directly in front of you. While you are busy mourning yesterday, life is offering you new possibilities today. While you are focused on what went wrong, you fail to notice what could still go right. Happiness cannot grow in a mind that constantly lives in the cemetery of old mistakes. Bruce Lee's philosophy teaches us to keep moving. Water does not stop flowing because it encounters a rock. It moves around it and continues its journey. Your mistakes are the rocks. They are obstacles that can teach you, strengthen you, and make you wiser, but they should never stop your movement. The moment you stop learning from them and start living inside them, they become barriers instead of lessons. Imagine carrying a heavy suitcase everywhere you go. Inside it are your regrets, your failures, your disappointments, and your embarrassing moments. Every day the suitcase becomes heavier because you keep adding new burdens to it. Eventually you become exhausted, but what if you simply put it down? What if you accepted that the past has already done its job? What if you took the lessons and left the pain behind? That is where freedom begins. That is where healing begins. That is where happiness begins. The happiest people are not those who never made mistakes. They are those who stopped allowing their mistakes to control their future. They understand that a wrong decision is an event, not an identity. A failure is an experience, not a definition. A setback is a chapter, not the entire story. So if you want your happiness to grow, begin ignoring the mistakes that no longer serve your growth. Learn from them, respect the lessons they taught you, but stop carrying them into every new day. Stop using yesterday's failures as evidence against tomorrow's possibilities. Stop defining yourself by moments that are already gone, because your future does not need a perfect past. It only needs a wiser version of you. And the moment you release the weight of old mistakes, you create space for confidence, peace, growth, and happiness to enter your life once again. Bruce Lee understood that true strength is not found in never falling. True strength is found in refusing to stay down. Lesson 6. Ignore negative energy and protect your peace. One of the most important lessons Bruce Lee's philosophy teaches is that not everything deserves a response. Not every insult deserves your attention. Not every argument deserves your participation. Not every negative person deserves access to your mind. Yet many people spend their lives doing the exact opposite. They absorb every criticism, react to every provocation, defend themselves against every accusation, and carry the emotional baggage of everyone around them. Then they wonder why happiness feels impossible to maintain. The truth is that your mind is like a garden. Whatever you allow to enter it will eventually grow. If you constantly allow negativity, anger, resentment, gossip, drama, and toxic influences into your thoughts, those things will eventually shape your emotional world. On the other hand, if you carefully protect your inner environment, your mind becomes a place where peace, clarity, confidence, and happiness can flourish. Bruce Lee understood that energy is one of life's most valuable resources. Every day you wake up with a limited amount of mental and emotional energy. The question is not whether you have energy. The question is where that energy is going. Many people waste enormous amounts of it fighting battles that never needed to be fought. They spend hours replaying insults. They obsess over people who dislike them. They allow negative encounters to dominate their thoughts for days or even weeks. A 5-minute interaction becomes a 5-day emotional burden because they continue feeding it with attention. What makes negative energy so dangerous is that it rarely announces itself openly. Sometimes it enters your life disguised as a friendship. Sometimes it appears in the form of constant complaints. Sometimes it comes through social media, endless arguments, toxic workplaces, or individuals who seem determined to spread their misery wherever they go. These people often carry chaos within themselves, and because they have not learned how to manage it, they unconsciously try to transfer it to others. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to drain your energy every time you interact with them? Before speaking with them, you feel calm. Afterward, you feel exhausted. Before hearing their opinions, you feel hopeful. Afterward, you feel discouraged. Their presence fills your mind with doubt, fear, frustration, and negativity. This is not a coincidence. Energy is contagious. The people you spend time with influence your thinking far more than you realize. Bruce Lee believed that mastery begins with self-awareness. Part of self-awareness is recognizing what strengthens your spirit and what weakens it. Many people are extremely careful about what they eat because they understand that unhealthy food affects their bodies. Yet they are careless about what they allow into their minds. They consume negativity all day long and then wonder why they feel emotionally exhausted. They expose themselves to constant drama and then question why they cannot find peace. Protecting your peace does not mean avoiding reality. It does not mean pretending problems do not exist. It means refusing to allow unnecessary negativity to take permanent residence inside your mind. It means learning when to walk away. It means understanding that silence is often more powerful than argument. It means realizing that your inner peace is too valuable to be sacrificed for every conflict that appears in your path. One of the greatest forms of strength is emotional discipline. Weak minds react to everything. Strong minds choose carefully what deserves a reaction. Anyone can become angry, anyone can argue, anyone can seek revenge. But it takes tremendous strength to remain calm when others expect you to lose control. It takes wisdom to stay focused when distractions surround you. It takes maturity to walk away from negativity that offers no benefit to your growth. Many people mistakenly believe that happiness comes from controlling other people. Bruce Lee understood that happiness comes from controlling yourself. You cannot stop others from being negative. You cannot stop criticism from existing. You cannot eliminate every difficult person from your life. But you can control how much access those things have to your inner world. You can decide whether negativity becomes a temporary visitor or a permanent resident. Think about how many opportunities, relationships, dreams, and peaceful moments have been ruined because someone allowed negativity to dominate their thinking. One critical comment destroys their confidence. One betrayal destroys their trust in everyone. One disappointment convinces them to stop trying altogether. They give a single negative experience the power to define their entire outlook on life. This is exactly why protecting your peace is not selfish, it is necessary. Bruce Lee often emphasized adaptability. Just as water flows around obstacles rather than fighting every barrier directly, you must learn to move around negativity instead of becoming trapped by it. Not every challenge requires confrontation. Sometimes the most powerful response is simply refusing to participate. Sometimes winning means preserving your peace rather than proving your point. As you grow stronger mentally, you begin noticing something remarkable. You no longer feel obligated to engage in every argument. You no longer feel responsible for correcting every misunderstanding. You no longer waste your energy trying to convince people who have already decided not to understand you. Instead, you focus on your goals, your growth, your purpose, and your peace. This is where happiness begins to expand. It grows in the space that becomes available when negativity is removed. It grows when your attention is no longer consumed by unnecessary drama. It grows when your mind becomes less crowded with resentment and more focused on gratitude. It grows when you stop carrying other people's emotional burdens and start investing your energy into your own development. The reality is that life will always contain negative people, difficult situations, and unexpected challenges. Bruce Lee knew this. The goal is not to eliminate every source of negativity. The goal is to become so disciplined that negativity can no longer dominate your inner state. When you achieve this, you gain something incredibly valuable: emotional freedom. So if you truly want your happiness to grow, begin ignoring negative energy wherever it appears. Ignore the drama that adds no value to your life. Ignore the arguments that lead nowhere. Ignore the people who constantly spread fear, bitterness, and discouragement. Protect your peace with the same determination that you protect your most valuable possessions, because your peace is not weakness. Your peace is power. Your peace is strength. Your peace is the foundation upon which happiness is built. And the moment you stop giving negative energy a home inside your mind, you discover that happiness was never as far away as you once believed. It was simply waiting for you to clear away the noise. Lesson 7. Ignore the fear of being alone. Perhaps the greatest thief of happiness is not failure, criticism, rejection, or even loss. Perhaps the greatest thief of happiness is the fear of being alone. This fear quietly controls millions of lives. It influences decisions people make every day without them even realizing it. It causes people to remain in unhealthy relationships, tolerate disrespect, abandon their values, suppress their true identities, and chase acceptance from people who were never meant to stay in their lives. The fear of loneliness has trapped more people than any prison ever could, because it is a prison built inside the mind. Bruce Lee understood something that most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid. He understood that solitude and loneliness are not the same thing. Loneliness is feeling empty when you are by yourself. Solitude is feeling complete when you are by yourself. One creates suffering, the other creates strength. Most people are terrified of being alone because being alone forces them to face themselves. When distractions disappear, when conversations stop, when notifications become silent, and when nobody is there to provide constant validation, a person is left with the one companion they can never escape, their own mind. This is why many people fill every moment with noise. They constantly seek entertainment, conversation, attention, approval, and distraction. They rush from one relationship to another, from one activity to another, from one source of stimulation to another. They are not always running toward something. Often, they are running away from themselves. Bruce Lee believed that self-knowledge is one of the highest forms of wisdom. Yet self-knowledge cannot develop in a mind that is constantly distracted. You cannot truly understand yourself if you never spend time with yourself. You cannot discover your strengths, weaknesses, dreams, fears, and purpose if you are always looking outward instead of inward. The modern world has made this challenge even greater. Never before have people been so connected and yet felt so disconnected. Thousands of followers cannot replace genuine self-respect. Endless messages cannot replace inner peace. Constant social interaction cannot replace a healthy relationship with yourself. Many people assume happiness comes from finding the right person, the right group of friends, the right social circle, or the right relationship. While meaningful relationships are valuable, Bruce Lee's philosophy suggests something deeper. If you are unhappy alone, you will often bring that unhappiness into every relationship you enter. If you depend on others to complete you, you will constantly fear losing them. And where there is fear, there can never be complete peace. Think about how much suffering is created by the fear of being alone. People stay in relationships where they are not respected because they fear solitude more than unhappiness. They continue friendships that drain their energy because they fear having fewer people around them. They tolerate toxic behavior because they believe any company is better than no company. But is it? Bruce Lee would likely ask a different question. What if being alone for a period of time is exactly what you need to become stronger? What if solitude is not punishment but preparation? What if the season you are trying to escape is actually the season that has the power to transform you? Every great transformation requires periods of solitude. Every great thinker, creator, leader, philosopher, artist, and warrior has experienced seasons of isolation, not because they hated people, but because growth often requires space. A seed grows underground before anyone sees it. A tree strengthens its roots long before its branches reach the sky. In the same way, human beings often develop their greatest strength during periods when nobody is watching. The problem is that most people judge solitude too quickly. They see it as evidence that something is missing. Bruce Lee would encourage you to see it differently. Solitude is often where clarity is born. It is where confidence is developed. It is where emotional independence is created. It is where a person stops becoming a follower of other people's expectations and starts becoming the author of their own life. When you learn to enjoy your own company, something extraordinary happens. You stop begging for attention. You stop chasing approval. You stop tolerating disrespect simply to avoid being alone. You begin choosing relationships based on quality rather than fear. You no longer need people to rescue you from loneliness because you have learned how to enjoy your own presence. This does not mean isolating yourself from the world. It means removing the fear that comes from being by yourself. There is a huge difference. One is avoidance. The other is freedom. Bruce Lee often spoke about self-mastery. Self-mastery is impossible when your emotional state depends entirely on external companionship. If you cannot be happy alone for a short period, you become vulnerable to manipulation. People quickly realize that your fear of loneliness can be used against you. They understand that you will accept treatment you do not deserve simply because you fear losing them. But when you become comfortable being alone, your standards rise, your confidence rises, your peace rises. You stop accepting less than you deserve because you know that solitude is not your enemy. Desperation disappears. clarity appears. Imagine a person standing on a mountain. The higher they climb, the fewer people there are around them. Not because success requires loneliness forever, but because growth often involves separating yourself from environments that no longer support your development. Sometimes the journey to becoming stronger, wiser, and happier requires walking alone for a while. Many people abandon their path because they become uncomfortable during these seasons. They assume something is wrong. They assume they are falling behind. They assume everyone else is happier. Yet what they do not realize is that some of the most important growth in life happens when there is no audience, no applause, and no recognition. Bruce Lee knew this truth. Before mastery becomes visible, it is invisible. Before strength becomes obvious, it is developed in private. Before confidence becomes natural, it is built through countless moments of self-reflection, discipline, and solitude. There is another reason why people fear being alone. When you are alone, there is nobody else to blame. Your excuses become visible. Your habits become visible. Your weaknesses become visible. Solitude acts like a mirror. It reveals the parts of yourself that constant distraction allows you to avoid. This can feel uncomfortable at first, but discomfort is often the doorway to growth. The strongest people are not those who never feel lonely. They are those who refuse to let loneliness control their decisions. They understand that temporary solitude is often the price of long-term happiness. They use alone time to heal, learn, grow, reflect, and reconnect with themselves rather than viewing it as a curse. As you become more comfortable with solitude, something remarkable begins happening. Your happiness becomes more stable. It no longer rises and falls based entirely on who is present in your life. You stop expecting others to provide what only self-respect can provide. You stop expecting relationships to solve problems that require inner growth. This is true freedom. Bruce Lee's philosophy repeatedly points toward independence of mind. Not isolation, but independence. The ability to remain centered whether people support you or not. The ability to remain peaceful whether others understand you or not. The ability to remain confident whether you are standing in a crowd or standing completely alone. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid being alone. The wise learn how to benefit from it. Because when you stop fearing solitude, you discover something surprising. The person you were searching for in others has been inside you all along. The confidence you wanted from approval was already available within you. The peace you expected from relationships was waiting for you in self-acceptance. The happiness you kept chasing outside yourself was quietly waiting inside. This is why Bruce Lee's path was never about dependence. It was about mastery. It was about becoming so connected with yourself that your happiness could not be easily stolen by rejection, criticism, disappointment, or loneliness. When you learn this lesson, life changes. You stop chasing people who do not value you. You stop lowering your standards to avoid being alone. You stop abandoning your purpose to gain acceptance. You stop measuring your worth by the number of people around you. You stop fearing silence. You stop fearing solitude. You stop fearing yourself. And the moment that fear disappears, a deeper kind of happiness begins to emerge. Not the temporary happiness that depends on circumstances, not the fragile happiness that depends on approval, not the unstable happiness that depends on constant attention, but a lasting happiness, a quiet happiness, a powerful happiness, a happiness that remains with you whether you are surrounded by people or walking your path alone. Because the greatest truth Bruce Lee wanted people to understand is this: the moment you become comfortable standing alone is the moment you become impossible to control. And the moment you become impossible to control is the moment true happiness finally begins to grow. So my friend, if there is one lesson you take away from today's message, let it be this: happiness is not something you find. Happiness is something you protect. Most people spend their lives searching for happiness in places where it was never meant to be found. They search for it in approval, possessions, status, relationships, attention, and the opinions of others. Yet Bruce Lee understood a truth that changes everything. Happiness grows naturally, when you stop feeding the things that destroy it. Ignore the need for everyone's approval. Ignore what you cannot control. Ignore endless comparisons. Ignore the opinions of small-minded people. Ignore mistakes that belong in the past. Ignore negative energy that steals your peace. And most importantly, ignore the fear of being alone. Because every time you remove one unnecessary burden from your mind, you create more space for peace. Every time you let go of something that weakens your spirit, you become stronger. Every time you stop chasing what was never meant for you, you move closer to what truly matters. Remember, Bruce Lee never taught people to become stronger than others. He taught them to become stronger than their former selves. Real power is not controlling the world around you. Real power is controlling the world within you. Life becomes lighter when you stop carrying what does not belong to you. Life becomes clearer when you stop listening to every voice around you. Life becomes happier when you stop giving your energy to things that do not deserve it. Years from now, you will not regret the opinions you ignored. You will not regret the negativity you walked away from. You will not regret the comparisons you refused to make, but you may regret the years spent worrying about things that never truly mattered. So starting today, choose peace over approval. Choose growth over comparison. Choose purpose over distraction. Choose self-respect over validation. And choose happiness over everything that tries to steal it, because your happiness has always been waiting on the other side of what you are finally willing to let go. If this message spoke to you, write "I choose happiness" in the comments below. And remember Bruce Lee's timeless wisdom: the less you need, the freer you become. Stay strong, stay disciplined, protect your peace, and keep growing,